that clearly. They say the peace, never get peace of mind because the peace is where the mind is not. That's where the peace is, not in the mind, it's when the mind is not. And when the mind is not, there's no thought, feeling or emotion obscuring it. When it just as it is. Isness means exactly that, as is, unmodified, uncorrected, unaltered. Yeah. And you think it's going to stay like that? No. Alterations will come up, modifications will come up, and things. But you might recognise what's it all taking place on. Is that sense of presence, the unawareness, the sad, the sense of presence, the consciousness at the back of it all, space, anything you can postulate or think of, can it be outside of space? Any sound, any word, any vibration of it can be outside of the silence or stillness. So again, the emptiness vibrates and forms it all. It's emptiness that's forming it. But in a natural state, there's none of it. And the forms which we've taken belief in are nothing other than the emptiness, still. Always. And then you might get the glimpse you've never ever been away from it. All the dramas and all the shit went on in the years of your life when you're doing it. They happened. They occurred. But where are they now? And what did they take place in? They took place in the space and the stillness. Like when I point out, there's no one in it to stick it. Could there be any manifestation if there wasn't day and night, if there wasn't silence sound, if there wasn't movement and stillness, if it didn't vibrate in the pairs of opposites? What would it be? You couldn't say it was still, you couldn't say it was empty, you couldn't say it was silence or anything about it. It would be just as it is again. Isn't there seeing going on there? Isn't there hearing? Isn't there tasting, touching, smelling, thinking? Isn't that some of those things happening with you right now? You just say, now I'm going to begin to think, now I'm going to begin to see, I'm going to start seeing, I'm going to start feeling. Try and stop it. You might need a sharp razor or a gun or something like that if you think you're going to stop it, but that won't stop it either. Because where's that pattern going to break down into? Where do those words come from if you don't think it? If you're not thinking them, they're arising out of something, disappearing into it, just like out there in nature. Take your leaf from nature because you are no different from nature, and see the way nature is functioning. It's going along quite naturally and effortlessly. From our point of view, it might be a terrible storm or a tsunami or a volcano might explode or something come up. All sorts of disasters, plagues, and wiping people out, things like that. But is nature itself, is that silence, stillness, touched or taught, heard in any way by anything that's ever appeared on it? Like your movie screen, as I say, it's got all sorts of dramas and traumas going on it, bodies dying in it and being raised and shot up and all the rest of it. Is the screen shot up when the movie finishes? Was it corrupted or contaminated? Do you think you are? You're a sinner, you're terrible, you've done this and done that, gone against the grain of society or whatever you believe you have, and taken the blame thing for something, and other people have put things on you? But has that essence that you are ever been contaminated or corrupted by any of it? And even the images that are put in these labels on there and things, they think they're doing it, but they're still the same essence. So the appearances happen. And why shouldn't they? What pleasures could you have, or what joys could you have without the sadness or the pain? But understand and know that everything is transient. It's constantly changing. The clouds are not stitched onto the sky or pasted on there or stuck on there. Look in that skull of yours and see how many thoughts are pasted in there. How many are attached to? And what's keeping any that are there, keeping them there? It is only the energy of belief going on. You believe, oh, I'm thinking this and I'm unhappy, oh, I'm so and so. I'm taking on all these things I've been called, and fearful and anxious. And belief is not the actual. An unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. It means we haven't really looked at it and tried to reason out. Acceptance of an alleged fact. This fact that I'm a body-mind, it's alleged. That's what you're told, that's what you believe. But are you the body? Are you the mind? Acceptance of alleged fact without
positive knowledge.
Yeah, without positive knowledge or proof, without investigating. We've taken it on board. And it's understandable because the first words you ever learn, you're taken on board from your parents. You don't question, your parents don't tell you to. And then the words you pick up yourself. And then the words from your schools, your society and everybody else. And the few that have pointed it out down through the age have lost sight of it. Because the words they put on the religions that they form around them are corrupt and contaminate the religion. But it's a matter for seeing for yourself. And it's quite simple and quite easy when you look, see that you'll never find the answer in the mind. Then what are you going to do then continually? Try, or not only trying, but recognise that prior to the thinking, prior to the thoughts, prior to the mind, you are. And you gladly give up this mind every night when you go to sleep. Gladly give it up. If you were the mind, you'd be frightened of giving up because it'd be the end of you. But you're all here this morning after a nice night's sleep, if you had a good night's sleep, when the mind was in abeyance. A very proof again that you're prior to thought. There was no thought going on. If you've no thoughts going on, you're prior to thought. When you pause a thought, even for the briefest instant, there's no thought going on, you are prior to the thought. We miss sight of that, lose sight of it. Anyway, I've been on long enough. So, you can question, argue about it, fight over it, do what you like. Or grasp it, take it with you.
Sometimes it can be like there's no thoughts, but there's still a sense of a me there. So at times, that's pretty normal.
Well, you try to find it, go to where that sensation's seemingly happening from. Can you find any centre there to it? Hmm? You're looking at it, pinpoint it where you think it is.
It starts to dissolve.
What does it tell you when it dissolves?
Doesn't tell me anything.
There's nothing there.
No.
Well, with nothing there, where are you then?
Yeah.
Without
It can happen quick.
without contaminating it and corrupting it by any thought, feeling or emotion. Now, if a thought, feeling comes up or emotion comes up, has it contaminated that space?
Has it what?
Contaminated that emptiness?
No.
Only if you put some belief in it. But it's just as it is then, isn't it? Now, that's been keep coming up for years and years. Not just a matter of recognising it once. You get the taste once, it might come out again out of habit. Every time it comes up, question it. Who's it happening to? That's what we ask you here. It's happening to me. Oh, I've heard that before, and I think that people have a shot at them. They're not. Just question and see, who is it happening to? What's the me? How does me translate it as I am? Well, am I me?
Oh, if I go I am, the me, there's no me there.
Yeah. But in that, are you unaware?
No.
Are you unconscious?
No.
You want to get rid of yourself. You're happy to be, aren't you? Well, there it is. And then you might understand when Shakespeare tells you there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That's the only thing that is dividing it or separating it. The concepts, the ideas, the thoughts. When the Sagara tells you nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. Break the word imagination down to image in, imagine. And see so many images around you. Look in the mirror. What you call reflections are images in the mirror. The art on the wall, that's images of somebody's fat and shaved their form. The photos and all the things, they're images, all images. Imagination. And the concept we've got about ourselves. I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, I've had all this bad childhood and all the things happen to people, don't like me. Low self-esteem. All conceptual images. Now, to take those reflections in the mirror, the images in the mirror. Look at them. You can't say they're not there, can you? Look at that mirror, or look at a mirror anywhere. It's full of reflections or images. The very space that's in the room is reflected. And there's no, you're not seeing the pure glass. It's fully covered with images. Go up and try and grab an image. All you'll do is grab the glass. That's how you'll recognise that the glass is there or the background is there. But you can't grab the image itself. So you can't say it's not there. It is there. It is there, but it's not there. Just images. And that's all we go on in the head. We're forming conceptual images all the time. This is good, this is bad, I like this, I don't like that. Fearful of this, I'm anxious about that. And nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. If you're not using those images or forming those images, what's going to trouble you? That's what it tells you in the Bible. Thou shalt not make unto thyself any graven images. People think we're talking about the stone idols and the carved up things and that worshipping. But these images are graven in our head, kept there. And we believe them and keep them there. Looking, so we're worshipping, we're doing idolatry, we're worshipping idols, we're worshipping these conceptual images. They're not the thing.
I remember the conversation that I had once after the meeting with Bill. Bill was the guy who was a Dutch guy who is a phenomenal speaker, and he's got beautiful clarity. He used to live in Melbourne and come to the meetings, and he's got a beautiful way of explaining it. And sometimes as he's going about the story, walking in the forest, sitting next to Billabong, eating pizza and having a beer, and he says there is a sense of me, the Bill body is there. Like there is a space in which there is a forest and there are all the content of the space, and the Beal body is also there. And he says, well, there is a sense of me. I know I'm not that sense of me, but there is a sense of me. And I remember asking him, what do you mean? What is the how does it feel like? Does it have any shape? Does it have any form? The sense of me doesn't have any substance to it. And he says, well, you know, it's a body. Yeah, I know. The body has the sensations, of course. There is a skin, there is a volume to it, there is a different senses that are connected to it. But the sense of me is not a sense of the body, is it? He says, well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't, but it is a sense. I say, okay, so you are aware of some sort of a sensation that you call Beal or me. So it couldn't be you if you are aware of it. But he says, yeah, but it kind of feels like it is there as a me, and that's no problem. The problem is only when you expect that sense to disappear, and it is still there. That's when the problem starts. If you totally, fully embrace the fact that, yeah, the sea still looks blue, it still appears blue. I know it's not, but it appears blue. And now, okay, I know there is no agency inside, but it feels like it is. And I have no problem. Let it feel for the rest of my life. Let it feel like there is someone there. I know it's not. It's just the pure sense of presence that, because of the characteristic of the senses, is, and there is a certain network in the brain that creates that sense of location, that creates that sense that the seeing starts from here, and and that's okay, as long as this is totally accepted. This is part of the appearance. The sense of me is part of the appearance. The sensory experiences of the body, part of the appearance. I'm not this. There's no problem. Because very often, I remember Terry's using it quite often, the sense of me hanging onto the sense of presence. And it feels like the me is the last thing, or whatever, maybe you should say it, whatever it hangs onto is the last thing to go. It's never gonna go. Sense of presence not going anywhere. Sense of presence is the natural state. Everyone is present. Bob is asking people, are you unaware? Are you not present, or are you not aware of your being? Yes, you are. So the knowing is there and the being is there. It's always there. It will never go. Only the idea that, but there is a me. It's not a plain presence, but the me, the entity, the located sort of a thing in that presence. But if that's a thing, oh, fantastic. That it means it is recognized as another piece of appearance.
It's okay for that sense of me to be there, but seeing through that. Okay, that's okay. That there's a sense there, but that can dissolve too.
You don't like the sense of presence, whatever that. Sense of being. Can you negate your being?
No.
So all that knowing, being, knowing, and loving to be, that's always there with you. Your being and your knowing.
And that's not really a problem, because the sense of presence is quite sweet, it's quite delicious, there's nothing wrong about it. It's only when things come on top of it that feel uncomfortable. Let's say there is a sense of presence and there is a sense of insecurity, or sense of void, or sense of discontentment, like, there is a sense of me, but it's not quite, it doesn't feel complete, it doesn't feel free. That's the problem. The presence is not a problem, but that sense of incompleteness or unlovability, unworthiness, that is what is usually cause of the suffering. Plain presence with nothing on it, even if it's translated, as Bob says, translated by the mind as a thought I am or a thought me. So that sense of presence translated as I or me or I am, it's not a problem. Only when it is somehow confined and limited by some low-level dissatisfaction, or something's not right, or it's not quite it yet. I'm not quite there. That is when the suffering comes, and this could be witnessed as passing emotion because it's not there all the time. That sense is not there when you're watching a good movie or having a nice meal. So it's a passing cloud. While the presence is always there, but this presence is, you can't sense it. You can't deny it, but it doesn't have a sensory flavor. It doesn't have sound or taste or smell or anything like it.
Thank you. That's my question.
Another thing on that presence, and I think that's what a friend said yesterday. We had a little bit of a party. What was distinguishably different and better in a way Bob is pointing non-duality than any other people she heard was the pointers that come to the nature, the natural state. How in nature is the sense of presence experienced? How present and alert are the cats or dogs? They're always there. They don't question and they don't have any discomfort around their being. They just are. And ultimately, stripping off all that is on top of the being, we could find ourselves in the same state of effortless joy, of just being with the five senses open and just being relaxed and alert at the same time. So this is what never goes. And yeah, that's the beauty of it, because without that sense of presence or without that machinery, the body mind, there would be no experiencing and no expression, and there would be no possibility to experience anything, love, beauty, anything. So that's always something that used to answer all my questions when there was still questions. Look at the nature. And what's normal, what goes, because there often comes an idea that, yeah, you know, I still believe in the agency or the ego, and that's not normal. And how does the cat or dog function if they don't believe it? And they still fight, they still get angry, they still get sad, they still sometimes traumatized, sometimes just hanging around effortlessly. So all the feelings, emotions, and reactions are normal. The only difference between us humans and the animals is the narrative self on top, is the commentary, the story that goes, oh, it shouldn't be this way. I can imagine, I can remember the past, so I can project and imagine the universe, which will be slightly different and better than this moment. And now I'm craving to that different imaginary universe, and I'm shitty and dirty on this, what is. Animals are incapable of that because of the computer, the machinery they have. They don't project, they don't imagine, they don't have symbolic language to even store the symbols to be able to project them. So the unhappiness coming from living in the future and the past, in the story, in the mind, is unavailable. For us, it's available and it's a wonderful capacity, but it can backfire if it is utilized as a tool. It's just exquisite. I mean, animals are incapable of building a civilization, societies, entertainment, none of it. And we have it, it's wonderful. But if we take it too seriously, the next thing, the very wonderful tool, is going to destroy us, and we have constantly rising level of anxiety, coming from basically just living in imagination and projecting the darkest scenarios into a future, which is totally totally story-based and completely unnecessary. And it wouldn't be so bad if that habit pattern of projection is still mechanically going on, but is not being believed. But we take it very seriously and we believe it. And now we believe that people or things could be different. They could, look, if they only tried a little bit harder, they could. This is imagination. This is what is. This is the reality. It doesn't get any different. It doesn't get any better. This is what is. Everything else, what could and should, is plainly in the imagination. It doesn't exist. But it feels like it is justified to follow the dreams, and that's how the life has it. I know. A really good step, I think it was, at least for me, to actually realize that aspect of nature that Bob is pointing out and see that everything, absolutely everything, including a story in the head, including ego, is natural and is none of my doing. So whatever is happening, I'm not the doer of it. It's not really me. There is a habitual pattern of beating myself up or criticizing or judging people or getting depressed or anxious, whatever. That's the pattern that the universe constructed in that brain through the conditioning, past experiences and events. That's how the computer is tuned, this is how it works. But it doesn't have to be taken as a personal. It doesn't have to be my brain or my habit or my reaction or my personality or my character that is bad and it should be different and it should be better. I'm just going to stop that one. So with that recognition, when everything is just effortlessly happening, just like the nature has it, and none of it is mine, not even being disappointed in myself or being angry that I'm getting angry. That's not mine, that's the habit, mechanical, totally mechanical habit. Unconscious, one could say. Although on one hand everything is unconscious and on the other hand nothing is unconscious because it is all one intelligence expressing as patterns. So every pattern is that consciousness, and at the same time every pattern is mechanical. It's whichever way works better to look as a pointer, whichever one is helpful, because they're both wrong. Every word or every pointer is always limited and it's wrong because it uses symbolic language to point at something beyond the mind, beyond language. But whatever is helpful. It was tremendously helpful for me to see everything as a habit pattern that nobody does and nobody is responsible for. It's just whatever goes in the mind, whatever reactions or whatever responses or whatever you want to call it, it's just what it does. That's not what I do, that's what it does. And if it is not what I do, how should I be disappointed in it? How should I be having any agenda about it? So now it is impersonal, I can just watch it and enjoy it. Even if it does things socially undesirable. It's still not me doing it, so I can just watch it. Don't have to be overly happy or unhappy about it, just completely neutral. Because that's what space is. Space is neutral. It doesn't care. And even if there is a pattern that shows up, and I don't like that pattern, the I don't like is also a pattern. Everything is just another layer of expression. So there is always a place, there's always a possibility to step back and include whatever is happening as just another layer of patterning or expression. Until you land as that totally, completely neutral, natural space, which allows everything. It doesn't do allowing, it just does not deny, it's just completely non-doing,
So the comes up from old conditioning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
like from? It's hard to speak words with this, but yeah. So it's just comes up from old stuff, old growing up.
Yeah, it's
whatever.
just a software. Like, you know,
Yeah.
some people would watch their parents getting anxious or getting a little bit uneasy about insects or having some sort of allergies or behaviors, and they emulate it as a children. You know, they copy emotional structure, the muscle, face muscles and stuff, or the way you walk. You know, the thought pattern is no different than the pattern you lift your cup as you drink your coffee, or the way you sip.
It's good to know I'm not responsible.
Totally not.
Totally not responsible. They're not mine.
No.
Because some of them can be very destructive and very painful, and they're very repetitive and very persistent. And yeah, it's good to have that
And then
attachment.
exactly, you look at other people and you look at their patterns and you think, oh, their patterns are better. Why do I have this pattern and not the other? How can I change and become like them? And that's another program in the computer, to compare and to go to strive for betterment. And that's also completely innocent and completely unconscious. And seeing that tendency to compare and beat yourself down or try and motivate yourself by some sort of a desirable value or a feature of character, that's also mechanical. That's also something to be viewed from this impersonal, neutral perspective, as a phenomena, something that appears as a phenomena, something interesting, not to be either suppressed or denied or overly expressed. It's just something that happens. Same as, you know, like really there's no difference the way you approach your body and you train your muscles or you train your posture or your strength or whatever because you got inspired. In the same way you can get inspired and train your concentration or your focus or your mindfulness or whatever, but it's not you doing it. It's just why this particular inspiration sank in, because perhaps when you were growing up there was a possibility or there was open fields or there was an appreciation from parents when you were going out and exercising, or maybe there was 1,000 little things, really not even one, it's all of it, 1,000 little things, like one event in your life changes course of your life, another one updates it a little bit more. It's like really the whole universe collectively contributes to the outcome of this moment. Why am I attracted to this color or this food or this smell and not the other? There's no one single cause. It's every situation, every person, every event, every single thing that happened through the process of conditioning that body that created that outcome. So it's totally not mine, and not even one person. Okay, let's say I got abused and now I'm gaining weight because I want to protect myself and this is all the fault of that stupid pedophile. No, even that, if the abuse was handled properly, or if the pedophile wasn't hurt himself, or if the weather, the climate, the diet, the parents, the society, the school was different, the outcome wouldn't be the way it is. It's really such a collective responsibility of the whole world for every baby of the world, because every moment is a product of that universe.
Well put, Kat. That was excellent.
So we always eternally innocent.
Exactly. Yeah, well put it.
And then
Everything appears as such,
yes.
but it's all part of the program that appears.
Mm-hmm.
That we sort of behave and judge and whatever. Yeah. Well put it. It was excellent.
If you ask yourself what conditioning is there if I don't think about it, and these conditioned patterns can be broken. Everything is fresh and new. See, we've got fear, anger, unhappiness, depression. They're all sensations which we've labelled when we first understand what they were, what people told us. And these sensations, instead of seeing every sensation fresh and new, what's coming up, what feeling might be coming up right now, or what caused this, see it fresh and new. We relate it to the old. And that's what beat ourselves up with the old conditioning. And it goes on and on and on.
Well, the old conditioning can actually show you how innocent you are instead of how guilty. Like beating up with conditioning makes no sense, because why would you beat yourself up for something you didn't choose at the first place? It makes no sense. But yeah, conditioning is only there when we call it. And we call it conditioning to relieve the sense of guilt, to relieve the sense of responsibility and all that stuff that we beat ourselves up. Because of course, you know, we can't call it pattern if we don't have a word pattern. Or pattern and conditioning, they're the same thing.
And you call it conditioning, it's a belief anyway.
Pattern is belief too, everything, every word is a belief.
And the word is not the thing.
No.
Once you see it, you see more clearly than after. Once it happens, when it's clear. We still get controlled by the thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually it's funny. It's not exactly that the thoughts are actually controlling the actions. Thoughts are narrating the actions. The actions happens, they come from a different part of the brain, and then the narrative says, oh, I've decided that, or I've said that, I've chose that. This is my thought or my idea.
Well, you brought up believing in that, aren't you?
Absolutely, yes. We are conditioned to believe it, because it kind of feels like, because we can't really observe our brain, what is happening there half a second before the narrative comes up. So how could I even know that it wasn't me? It's just, it feels that way. It feels that I choose what I'm going to have for lunch, and not my gut chose it, or not my eyes chose it. Like, who chose it? So this is the phenomenon of functioning. Who's breathing? Who is blowing the wind? Who is growing the grass? Who is raining the rain?
A lot of things, if you're aware of them, you observe yourself. There's a lot of things that you can see that it's not you doing it.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
All of it. If we don't do the seeing, because seeing is just plain functioning. If we don't do the thinking, because that's plain functioning, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, that's just plain functioning of the body. And the action is plain functioning of the body. And the action is exercised in a different ways. It is exercised by chemical reactions that are happening in the responses to the sensory information coming through the holes in our body. We have holes here, different holes there, and the information come and project some other information out there.
Anyway.
Yeah. So everything is
Our
just
function.
yeah. Everything's functioning. There is absolutely no room for the entity or agency to do any of it. And that's a relief, because from that perspective also, what could I ever have gotten wrong? It doesn't mean I'm not making errors, mistake, or harming. Yes, of course, the body is designed this way. Like Bob is often saying, right now, I touch my skin and I wipe off the whole communities of bugs and bacteria, and a horrible thing. But but that's how life functions, and not me doing it. I didn't decide or choose as an entity, because there is no entity. Although it feels like it is, because of the narrative self catching up very, very quickly on every action. Like there was we had a friend on the meeting on Thursday, and he brought this brilliant, beautiful analogy. He's coming up on Sundays sometimes, and it's always absolute diamonds and pearls coming out of his mouth, Jamie. So he says it is like the body is like an elephant, and the mouse on the top of the elephant is the mind. And the mouse is thinking that it is steering the actions and the movement of the elephant. The elephant runs through the forest, it has its ways, it knows where to turn, it knows what to do. But the mouse sitting on the top says, oh, I told them to turn, oh, I told them. No, it doesn't. But the mouse is so, and the mind also, the clumsy mind, that always comes the half a second after the action, that the mouse never gets wrong. Look, I always tell him he always turns where I want to turn, because of that half second, the narrative comes after the action, but it feels like it came before. So the elephant turned this way or that way or lie down or whatever, and a mouse fools itself that, no, I just told him before he lie down to lie down. No, he didn't. The action already on the chemical level of the body was already moving, the chemicals were already pumping blood to the places where it should go. So that's how the illusion of the self comes about, because the narration comes on top of every action, on top of every thought, and it feels like it was me deciding it or doing it. Because I can't see what the chemistry is doing there. I can't see where is the blood flowing or oxygen flowing.
And that's what keeps you in the reality, doesn't it? In this illusion, really.
That's what, yes, exactly. That's what keeps the illusion.
Otherwise, you won't be in it.
Yes.
Go back to lunch, right, and who decides, right? Okay, there's no you to decide, but you only take the credit after it happens, right?
Exactly.
But nevertheless, there is a decision been made,
Yes, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Now, I heard once from somebody else, they say the decision being made is made by the body according to the conditioning of the body. In other words, if I've had a bad experience with beer, let's say, then I say, oh no, I don't want a beer, I'll have a cup of coffee instead.
Mm-hmm.
So the decision is been made, nevertheless. It's
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
made by the false self, which doesn't exist, but the decision is still made. And according to this guy's, the decision is made according to the conditioning of the body and the experience that the body had with that food. So if I like spaghetti marinara before, then I'll still like it today and I'll have that, you know what I mean? But if I don't like pies, well, I say, no, I don't want pies, because the body's been conditioned that way.
That is a good approximation, but he excluded an environment. Yes, every decision is made according to the predisposition of the whole environment. Body is part of the environment, and the rest of the environment, you see, you are in the restaurant and you had a bad experience with lasagna, you're not going to have a lasagna anymore unless you see that restaurant has completely different lasagna that looks and smells differently, and it may actually encourage you to break your trauma. Or whatever, you get people, 20 people, everybody is ordering this, and you have a little bit of social insecurity or anxiety, and you say, okay, I'll be sick, but I won't stand out. See, the whole environment, the body and the conditioning, absolutely, it is partially responsible for whatever decision is going to be made, but the rest of the whole universe as well. It may be morning or evening that may be having an impact on your decision. Or it may be 1,000 little things that is included in the environment because you're not separated from it.
Yeah, but that's more outside. Now, closer in, it's just the way the condition of the body. I think that's the first decision.
Yeah.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah, I understand it's all interconnected, but that's getting very vague. But
But that's how it
That's
works.
getting precise, because you see, telling that something depends only on one factor is usually good enough for the life, for the daily functioning. I drop the glass due to gravity, it falls down. But if you really want to talk with precision, the fact that the glass falls down is not just the gravity. It's 1,000 different factors, like my hand holding it, like the glass being here in the first place. That actually making the statement precise. For the thing, like you understand decision-making process, yes, it is good enough to say, yeah, it's my past experiences, whatever experiences I had in the past, right. Yeah, but to be precise, every decision-making process is not just limited to the experience of the body. Is also completely affected by the rest of the world. That is just to make the message precise. Because yes, for your purpose, if you want to see that decision, it happens this way, is good enough. But because it is non-duality, nothing gets excluded.
Yeah,
And it's worth to remember that.
Yeah, I understand. But if somebody asks me, you want a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, right?
Yeah,
And I answer coffee.
yeah.
Now, how does the rest of the universe come into play what I decided,
Yeah.
or what the body decided?
Yeah, contemplate
How
on
does
that.
it- how does it
Yeah,
do it?
contemplate on that. If someone asks you if you want a tea or coffee at 10 in the evening when you are just about to go to sleep, and you know that your body is going to react the way, so you're not going to be sleeping all night. How the universe plays out? Well, you look at the watch, that's how. And you say, no thanks, I'll have a water. A simple example. But if you contemplate on that, you can find 1,000 examples which will show that it is, or let's say you are sick, or you are forbidden by the doctor to have the tea or coffee, or whatever. 1,000 examples. If you're really willing to look into it, and you really trust in the non-duality message, because it says that it's non-dual, nothing is excluded, the whole field, everything is one, the whole ocean and every wave in the ocean are interconnected, nothing separated. Body is not separated from environment. So any decision that the body takes is also including the whole world in it. If you are willing to look for yourself and see, you will find the evidence with no problem whatsoever. And the simplification is beautiful for daily life. I would not recommend anyone to go and boss ask them, could you go and please move that whatever forklift there? He says, no, I need the whole universe and every force is in my body and in the world. No, you don't do it. You just, you function simply. But because we are contemplating non-duality here, where we actually point on every possible way that everything is a manifestation of one, then to see that same manifestation of one in every action can actually be beneficial for the topic. In a practical daily living, yeah, sure. I feel like coffee, I'm having coffee, that's it. There's no other factors included. Forget about it, don't even think about it. But know the truth.
Put it simply, decisions are made, but there's no decision maker. Choices are made, there's no choice maker. Feelings are felt, thoughts are thinking.
Decisions are made, but there's no decision
Maker,
maker.
yeah.
Yes.
You think I'm choosing or I'm just making a decision, and
I understand the I doesn't choose because there's no I,
yeah.
but the decision still is made, right?
Well, they'll be made, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Decisions will be made, yeah. Thinking is happening, but there's no thinker. Seeing is happening, but no seer.
that's why you lose me, Bob.
See how seeing is happening. Do you decide or
Seeing,
or
let's go
say,
to seeing
yeah,
now, right?
yeah,
You say seeing just happens or hearing just happens,
yeah,
and you say nobody's responsible for it.
yeah.
Well, you say I see,
Functional.
you formed a subject, I believe, seeing.
Okay, let's forget about the I because we know it doesn't exist, right? But you're saying seeing just happens,
Yeah,
and there's nobody doing it.
yeah.
Isn't that oneness of doing it?
Well, you could say it's oneness doing
There
it.
has to be, because if that's all there is, seeing has to be done by that.
But look, when we talk oneness, we say it's not even one. Because
Okay.
one, it seems like an object, but we call it emptiness.
Okay, we'll call it emptiness. Let's call it
Yeah,
emptiness.
but
if
you-
emptiness decide then somebody's got
The whole universe is
the whole
deciding.
universe.
Yeah,
It's
look,
still something, but that's what I'm saying.
yeah, look, who is deciding for the rain to drop? You know, the rain. Who is doing the raining? Like when you look at the whole structure of the planet, you see that what Bob is saying, the sun is shining at the ocean and is evaporating the water, and the water forms the cloud, and the wind blows the cloud over the mountains, and the temperature lowers down, and the condensation happen, and that's how rain
But there's something
drops.
causing it to happen. The rain doesn't come down by itself.
Oh yes, no, it's not one cause; it's 1,000
Yes,
causes.
I understand, but it's
Yes.
a lot of factors.
Exactly,
Right?
all
You
connected.
know, pressure, blah, 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 which I don't understand much about it, but what I'm saying, there's a lot of things involved. But those things involved are causing it, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, and you're right. And then
And you
one
call
could
that
say,
oneness, call it God, call it whatever you like,
Energy, maybe.
energy, whatever, intelligent energy, that's causing it.
absolutely. So you can say the
So we
cause
can't
of
say
the rain.
Nothing is causing it there.
Well, look again. If we say the cause for the rain is infinite amount of factors, infinite. You understand? It's not 10,000. It's not 10 billion. It's infinite amount of factors. Every holographic particle of the whole world contributes to that rain to fall. Temperature, waves, everything. So now we say it has infinite amount of causes. That's why we say it is uncaused. because you can't point out one simple single cause.
Kat, what he's trying to say, I'll tell you. He's trying to say that the whole manifestation comes from somewhere, not just from nowhere. That's what he's trying to
Yes,
get across.
I hear it. I hear
Right?
it. Yes.
It's coming from somewhere. The whole manifestation, everything. And it does. It comes from that energy, that
Yeah.
intelligent energy. The whole manifestation comes from that.
That's right.
Whether it's a ore or into the single drop of water, it's
Mhm.
still part of that manifestation.
Mhm.
Correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Just the same.
That's what he's trying to get to.
Just the
Mm.
same in this body. There's millions of cells working in this body right now. Each cell has its own unique intelligence.
That's right.
Because a liver cell will never be a heart cell. A heart cell won't be a brain cell. It knows what to do.
Exactly.
Or the knowing is not it knows it. It is a knowing,
Yeah, that's right.
being, knowing, and loving to be, and it's ising,
Yeah.
just as it is.
And that knowing is what we call the intelligent energy,
Yeah,
correct? Or God, or
Or
whatever
whatever
you
name
call
you
it.
want to
yeah,
put.
we put
Whatever name you want to put it.
Yeah, that's right. That's all happening.
That's what I.
Yeah,
That's what I'm trying
and,
to say.
and just for the sake of precision, because I had quite a few people attacking Bob quite viciously. They're completely insane.
I'm
But
not attacking you.
I know. But I'm just
Okay.
going to add that,
Yeah.
that single point, that it isn't exactly that everything comes from something. Bob says, can anything come from nothing? That is where it's a mindfuck, that little thing. You can understand that every wave comes from the ocean because there is an ocean, so they are the waves. Of course, if there wouldn't be ocean, there wouldn't be a waves. And here, it's not exactly that there is something, there is an essence, or there is an energy, or there is some substance which creates all the other substances. That's the mindfuck. That substance is no thing. It does not have a substance. It is not a thing. It is emptiness. So this is what you can't grasp and understand with the mind. This will show itself to you in a way that you will have absolutely no doubt that this is a case, that this is so. That everything, just like you can see in the dream, the mountains, the rains, the birds, everything comes out just of the shutting neurons in your brain. The whole world comes out of nothing. But really, we can't even say if there is a substance or the energy or intelligence or emptiness or an object that creates the whole world.
But even to create this illusion, right, it has to be something for that creation to take place, for that illusion itself.
Yeah, that's why we say it comes in space.
That's right, and that space is from whatever can be named.
Yeah, exactly. As you say,
That's
it
it.
can't be named.
Yeah, but
because
that's exactly from where? That comes
Yeah.
from that. That's right.
Yeah. But see how quickly the mind will say, yeah, okay, so I get it. Oh, okay, so it comes
No,
from
the
space.
mind will never
Space
get
is a
it.
thing.
We'll never get it. The mind will never get
That's a point. Yeah. So that's why I highlight the other aspect, because this space is not a thing. Emptiness is not a thing. It's not an essence. And I know you know it because you've seen it,
it. Yeah.
you know, non-conceptually
That's right.
through personal experience, the way it shows itself.
So when you say it's not a thing, you mean it's not an object, correct or not? When you say it's not a thing,
And,
Yeah.
and
it's not an object.
And
Yeah.
not the
I
pat-
understand that.
hasn't got any pattern, shape, or form.
Okay.
Just is.
But it's not a thing which has got pattern, shape or form, but still it's something, as Mary said, you can't name it, but still it's something, isn't it?
Well, something
Help me
that
out,
we
Will.
want
Yeah,
to
but
put
it's
a
not-
name to it.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
it's no thing appearing as something.
Why is it appearing as something? Is that because of
Well,
consciousness?
the ripple going through it like a wave will appear on the ocean. Ocean will be still. A ripple, something will stir through it, a move of energy, and form a wave. But it's still only the water.
Yes, yeah. But why do we as... so confusing. Why do we perceive it as something? Is that because of...
Well,
Is that because of our
that's the other function.
apparatus, our...
Yeah.
That's the other functions happening through that pattern you call the body mind, the so-called human form, which has a capacity of reasoning, which is more, which other animals, birds, insects don't have that particular capacity.
It's only because we haven't had a good look. It's primarily ignorance. And I don't mean that in a nasty way. Yeah. It's primarily ignorance. We just,
Ignore our brain.
yeah, we just don't look. We're ignoring the essence,
Yeah.
if you like ignoring it. Yeah. So it's,
Taking all the way we perceive things naturally for granted.
we assume
should
that
be.
how we perceive things is the way it is,
Yeah.
and it's not.
Yeah.
It's really not. It's really, really not. But we need to look for ourselves to see if that's true. Break the ignorance. See what's actually really happening. Then you start to understand things like, we can't describe this. You can't. It's not a thing, and it's nothing, and it's everything, and it's nowhere, and it's void, and it's so many different terminologies that are given to it, you know, and one terminology might land for someone, and a completely different terminology will land for somebody else. Yeah, they're all just pointers, but it's primarily ignorance and assumption. We assume so much, which is to do with the ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah.
We assume things are a certain way because, you know, everyone else does. You know, and we've been brought up or conditioned as
Yeah.
what's been talked about. You know, we're conditioned to think and believe,
And we're all colluding
Certain
in
way.
the ignorance as a species.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and none of us question it. We don't actually question it. I mean, you've got physicists that are trying to drill down, yeah, or drill out, or, you know, they're still all over the shop. You know, but at least they understand there's space. Although even now they're kind of saying there's no space. And anyway, that's another story. It doesn't matter, but it's just seeing how the mind operates and how we think and how we've been conditioned to think. And just, if you can catch any assumption that you have, any assumption, check it. See if it's true. Because most of the assumptions that we have, we actually believe that our assumptions are true. But an assumption's not a fact. Assumption comes from I assume. Yeah. So it's just checking those sorts of things out for you.
That's going to take a long time.
Not really. Not really. Not really. Not really, because, you know, you only have to look at a few
And then they start to unravel.
yeah, well, you realise what an assumption is. An assumption's not a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's not a matter of having to dissect each assumption that you have. It's just understanding that an assumption's not a fact.
Recognise one and the others fall apart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there's thousands of assumptions. You don't have to dissect them all. You don't.
Just the core ones, maybe.
Well, just understand, really, just understand that an assumption is not a fact.
Yeah.
It's not. So anything that you have an assumption about is not true.
Can I get an example, Tara?
An assumption
example,
is just a concept
example,
how
assume,
it's grasped onto by the mind.
It's just a concept, it's a belief.
Yeah.
An assumption is belief. Purely just a belief.
Would all thoughts essentially be assumptions
Yeah.
Yeah,
to a degree?
absolutely. Word. Word. You know, even sound, like, I mean, sound is, yeah. But then we tack a meaning onto a sound. Like, you know, if I was speaking another language that you didn't understand, all you'd hear is sound. And it would mean nothing to you. Absolutely zero, like zero. But all you'd be hearing is sound. But somebody else that understood what language I was speaking to would attach so much to what I'm saying, whereas someone else, nothing, absolutely zero. So we take the word to be real, we take the word to be the actual, or we take a description to be the actual thing, whereas
The meaning that we've attributed
attributed
to
to
that
it, yeah,
word
yeah,
or string of words.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Even like I or me, you know, can't remember when Adrian said earlier, you know, like I experience times where there's no thoughts, but there still feels like there's a sense of me here. Is that what you said, Ad? Yeah. It still feels like there's a sense of me here. You know? That's an assumption. Straight up is an assumption. Like if we dissected that, which we don't have time to do now, but if we really, really went into it, all that he would discover he's experiencing is an energy. And he's calling that energy, or that presence, or that aliveness, you know, he's calling that me. But that is prior to the notion of a me. You know, so when there's no thought, when you're experiencing those times when there's no thought, and then another thought might pop up and go, yeah, and it still feels like there's me there. That's just a thought that's just arisen again. If that thought didn't arise at all there would be is no thought at all and just pure presence. And that presence you're attributing to be the conceptual me. And it's just all thoughts. It really is, you know, assumptions, thoughts, beliefs, conditioning, ideas, words. It's, yeah.
And they're continually dividing.
Yeah.
Anyway, time's caught up with us. Thank you.
It's good.
Thank you.